Hey guys, Al here, Vitalized Seed. I thought I'd do something different today. Not sure if guys are going to like this or not, but if they do, we can do a couple episodes on some buck stories. So I guess we're going to call this the buck story piece. Um, this deer behind me killed Ohio opening day 2020. So I think it was like September 28th that year. And this deer actually surprised me. He ended up coming back as 3.5 years old. I thought he might have been 3.5. I didn't have a lot of history with this deer. This was on a permission piece of ground. And this was before, well, it wasn't before cell cameras, but it was before I had been using cell cameras. But I had a camera on this oak flat. And basically, it was like I don't know, about 17-acre piece, give or take, permission spot. And next to it was this big, like 25-ish acre. I call it CRP, but it wasn't necessarily specifically enrolled in that. But it was just that like secondary successional habitat. There were some oaks. I mean, real thick goldenrod and just nasty thick cover. And I knew those deer would bed in that cover, and they'd come out onto that oak flat to feed. And there was a creek that kind of came down beneath the oak flat, so it kind of pinched down naturally along this. And I had to stand there, and I had checked the camera like 3 or 4 days before bow season, and this deer had showed up. I mean, just consistently, he had been in there, and right around 8:30 in the morning, actually. And, we talk a lot about don't hunt mornings, and you hear all of this stuff from guys who have a lot better walls than I do. But I've always been somebody that's like, well, don't hunt something unless you have a reason to, right? And on this particular deer, he gave me a reason to. So he was showing up really, really consistently. It had been a few years since I had shot a buck. And I just was like, I really. He got me excited. I'd like to at least see him on the hoof and see how I feel. And I decided to go in after that deer opening morning. Now, I told you about that creek. I got up real early. I got into the stand like 2 hours before light. I actually went down and dropped into that creek and was able to follow it down along for about 60 yards or so, maybe a little bit less, maybe 45 yards or so. So basically, there was a field. I was able to drop down into this creek and then pop out of the creek, and I only had a 25 or 30 yard walk, maybe less than that, right to the base of my tree where I was able to go up in. So now I was positioned with a southwest wind that day, with the wind hitting me in the face, the bedding off to my left, the creek to my right, and oaks basically up and down this ridge. So I was sitting there all morning, and deer start popping out in front of me on these trails, and this deer ends up circling downwind of me. However, it was opening day, so where that creek is, it dropped down. So when he got downwind of me, my thermals, because it was warming up in the morning, were carrying that scent upwards, which is pretty cool. So he never was able to win me. He came all the way down, pushed a couple does out of the way. Clearly, it was just more of a dominance thing, not necessarily chasing or anything like that. And he ended up stopping at about 18 yards. And when I saw his G2s, I thought that's a really, pretty darn good buck. Haven't killed one in several years. This is a small permission spot. My wife was pregnant with our son at the time as well. So I decided to harvest this deer. I made a almost perfect shot. I could share pictures with anyone interested. I mean, right behind the shoulder. But this deer, it actually took me a couple days to find it. It was a total bummer. I'm happy that I ended up finding him, and I look at him every day here in my office. But I put it right through him. I don't know if the broadhead didn't function. I talked to a professional tracker. Everybody who looked at that deer and where that arrow hit, they said there's no reason that deer shouldn't have been expired very quickly. He ended up doing about a 500-yard loop, and actually I found that deer like 20 yards to the south of the stand. So he ran basically straight out. I guess that would be to the west. If I'm doing that right in my head, I guess I think no, he would have. Yeah, he would have ran to the west, and Then he ended up looping all the way clear back around, and I ended up finding him in that creek that I walked in on. It was like 2 days later, unfortunately. I just wouldn't give up because I knew, based on the initial impact, how the arrow looked, and just what I know, what I saw, and I knew that arrow was right on him. So that was kind of the bummer part of the story. But the good part of the story, it was a beautiful buck, and I got to spend a little bit more time at home that fall, enjoying the getting ready for the birth of our son. So I'll give you a quick look at this deer. I'll go this way. And he's just a pretty nice 8-point buck, and one that I was real happy with, and definitely one that kicked off a couple good year span for me. On the farm, would I harvest that deer? Probably not. I probably would have looked at it a little bit closer and try to make sure that he was 4.5 or older. But on a permission spot, and the way the situation was that year with my wife being pregnant, it was a deer that I'm darn happy with, and he's a real pretty buck, and I'm happy to have him on the wall. So moral of the story, guys, is enjoy your hunt. And, we all say we want to grow big deer, we want to grow mature deer, but every year is different. Sometimes you have a permission spot, sometimes you lose a spot, sometimes you have great deer on the farm, sometimes you don't. And sometimes your wife's pregnant, and sometimes your job's really demanding. So enjoy your hunt your hunt, and most importantly, guys, get outside, enjoy the outdoors. And if you like this kind of stuff and you like our seed information and soil information, check us out at vitalizeseed.com. I hope you all have a merry and safe Christmas.